I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, I just don't feel ready to buy a house yet. And on the surface, that sounds responsible. It sounds like you're being careful, thoughtful, not rushing into big decisions. But after doing this for years, I've realized something. Most people aren't actually waiting because they're not ready. They're waiting because they don't fully understand what they're committing to. And those are two very different things. So in this video, I want to break down the real reason people don't buy a home. And it's not what most people think. I'm going to walk you through 5 things that are actually happening behind the scenes when someone says, I'm not ready, including what they're really afraid of, where the confusion comes from, the biggest mistake I see people make when they wait, and how to know when you're actually ready without guessing. Because buying a home shouldn't feel like a stressful experience. It should feel like it was clearly explained and like everything is going according to plan. And if it doesn't feel that way, that's usually a sign that something hasn't been explained properly yet. Let me show you what I mean. When somebody tells me I'm not ready yet, I don't just take that at face value. I usually ask them 2 questions. What's preventing you from feeling ready? And what's your biggest fear about buying a home? And almost every time we uncover something very specific. It's not random. It's usually fear of the payment, uncertainty of the timing, or just not understanding the whole process and how it works. And once we actually talk through those things, it feels like the pressure drops because we're not dealing with a vague feeling anymore. We're solving a real problem. And if you're in that stage right now where you're thinking about buying and not sure how to move forward, I put together something called a 90-day homeownership game plan. It walks you through exactly what to focus on over the next 90 days so you're not sitting there guessing. The link's in the description. It's there to give you clarity, not pressure. Let's start here. This is the biggest misconception I see. People think readiness is a feeling. Like one day they're going to wake up and say, yep, today's the day I feel 100% ready to buy a house. That's not how it works. Readiness doesn't come from a feeling. It comes from clarity. If you don't understand what your payment looks like, what your options are, what the process actually involves, of course you're going to hesitate. Anyone would. Think about it like this. If someone asked you to commit to a monthly payment that could be one of the biggest expenses in your life, but didn't clearly explain how it works, you wouldn't move forward confidently. You'd pause. You'd question it. You'd probably say, I'm not ready yet. But what you really mean is, I don't fully understand this yet. So instead of asking yourself, am I ready? A better question is, do I actually understand what this looks like for me? Because those are 2 completely different things. Let's be honest for a second. The biggest fear I see isn't the house. It's not even the process. It's the payment. That's what people are really trying to get comfortable with. Because once you commit to that number, you feel it every single month. And a lot of people are thinking, what if I get this wrong? What if this ends up being more than I expected? What if I feel stuck? And those are valid questions. But here's the part most people don't think through clearly. The goal is not to qualify for the most house possible. The goal is to find a payment that fits your life comfortably. Think about it like this. It's like signing up for something long-term like a gym membership, a car payment, anything like that. If it fits your budget and your lifestyle, you don't really think about it. But if it stretches you too far, now it's always in the back of your mind. That's why I always tell people, don't build your decision around the maximum you can afford. Build it around what actually feels sustainable. Because once the payment makes sense, everything else becomes a lot less stressful. If this is already helping you think about this differently, go ahead and subscribe. I break this process down in a way that actually helps you make decisions, not just gives you more information to overthink. The next thing people get stuck on is timing. I'm in a lease right now. I might change jobs. I don't know if this is the right time. And on the surface, those sound like valid reasons to wait. But here's where most people get this wrong. They think they need perfect timing. And real life doesn't work like that. What you actually need is a plan. Because when you understand the process, you can start to work around timing. You can align things with your lease, plan your move strategically, build in flexibility. But if you don't understand your options, everything feels like it has to line up perfectly. And when that happens, you wait. Not because you need to, but because you don't see the path forward clearly. Let me give you a real example of how this plays out. I had a client who wanted to buy a home, but there was always something that they wanted to do first. I want to work on my credit a little more. I want to pay down some debt. I might look for a better job first. And individually, those sound like smart moves. But what ended up happening is that it turned into about a year of waiting. And during that time, home prices kept going up, So when they finally came back and said, okay, I'm ready now, the homes they originally could have qualified for were no longer an option. And the homes that fit their new budget really didn't meet their needs anymore. And that's a tough position to be in. Not because they made a bad decision, but because they didn't have the full picture when they decided to wait. That's the difference. Waiting isn't always the problem. Waiting without clarity is the problem. This is probably the most common thing I hear right now. I'm just going to wait until rates come down first. And I understand the thinking behind that. It sounds logical, but here's what most people don't think through. If rates drop, a lot more buyers enter the market. And when more buyers enter the market, demand goes up, competition goes up, and prices go up. So instead of just getting a lower rate, you're potentially dealing with a higher price of homes, multiple offers, and less negotiating power. This is the part nobody really explains clearly. You're focusing on one variable improving without realizing other variables may get worse. So the goal isn't to perfectly time out the market. The goal is to understand your situation and make smart decisions based on that. And if you're in that spot right now where you're trying to figure out whether you should move forward or wait, this is exactly the kind of situation that I help people with every day. If you're thinking about buying or refinancing and want clarity on your specific situation, I'd be happy to help. There's a link in the description where you can schedule a time or grab one of my free guides to get started. So what does being ready actually mean? It doesn't mean everything is perfect. It doesn't mean you have zero questions. And it definitely doesn't mean you feel 100% certain. What it means is you understand your numbers, you understand your options, and you feel comfortable with the decision. Not perfect, comfortable. Because buying a home shouldn't feel like a stressful experience. It should feel like it's being explained clearly and is going according to plan. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'm not ready yet, take a step back and ask yourself, do I actually need more time or do I just need more clarity? Because those are two very different things. If you're focused on getting clear instead of waiting for a feeling, you're going to make a much better decision. If this helped you feel more confident about the process, make sure to subscribe. And if you want to keep learning, check out one of these next videos. I'll walk you through exactly how to figure out what you can afford and how to avoid the biggest mistakes buyers make.